to get to the questions that, and they're kind of grouped together, I've sort of grouped them together, making them, forgive me for this, I actually am reading, so I have the questions, at hand. So how does the action of the prosthetic penis change the status quo or alter a given state of affairs? How does the prosthetic penis act as a quote-unquote actant? And for those who are not familiar with something like new materialism and actor network theory and things like this, you might want to look up Actant, A-C-T-A-N-T, and I look around. So I don't really necessarily want to apologize to my regular viewers. What it is that if there's something that because this has now become this sort of academic engagement, I would hope that you would still watch, because the things I'm going to talk about, still will be perhaps helpful in some ways, if you are navigating this sort of journey as well. So, whether academic journey or, as a transman or transmasculine person. So, how does the prosthetic penis, as an actant, modify another entity, the author, in a trial? So, looking at Bennett, how does matter, such as the prosthetic penis, become involved in political processes as an actant? How does the peacock render possible and visible the author's ability, for instance, to urinate in the men's restroom, and how does that particular action alter a given state of affairs? Okay, and there's a lot to that. So simply put, right, something expected for this person that, and we'll look at how all of these, how this prosthetic works together as part of an assemblage to give a certain presentation in the world happens. So the expectation would be that there was this penis that could, when needing to urinate, would be able to project outwards away from the body, and so and therefore not sully the self, right? But so by having the prosthetic, right, it allows for that to be able to go into a space and for the body to perform in an expected way that renders that body legible. And so what happens is that that the prosthetic, and the thing to keep in mind is this, not the prosthetic alone, is that the prosthetic as part of an assemblage, and that assemblage at the very basic being the prosthetic plus the harness, like I've talked about in the other videos, that are then within pants and clothing, but also then the medical technologies that allow this body to look in a particular way, so prior to top surgery to have something like a binder, but then after surgery, that not being necessary, but to also be on hormones to then make certain physical changes to the areas of the body that are visible, such as my face, but also to even change the very sound of my voice. And so to put all these things together, that then makes this citational performativity, right? So we're looking at the citation of what is legible as man in this culture. And that, at the very basic, that is what the prosthetic allows within those spaces, to some extent, right? So then there are other things outside of what the individual person has done, as far as with having the prosthetic, having hormones, and being inside that space, then as that person also is part of an assemblage to give that citation. So it also is contingent on things like the design of not only the fixtures within that restroom space, but of the restroom itself. How is it designed, laid out in a way that allows for whatever necessary presentation but also concealment would be needed for that person to be able to then perform that function, to give the citation of man. But even outside of the bathroom space, I have to look at, so outside the bathroom space, you even have where the peacock becomes an act and gets caught up in these political processes because, depending on how it is manufactured, what the materials are made of, whether it's peacock or another penile prosthetic, because even that, like I said, I do have a different one now. But given how it has been manufactured and the chemical makeup of the material, then it may or may not, and some have been known to do this. I do believe the peacock is supposed to be one of them, but I think I might, even with the newer one, have some issues with this. But so depending on the chemical makeup and how the penile prosthetic has been manufactured, then within something such as a scanner with TSA, it can actually mimic, or is read by some of those scanners as the same as bomb material, right? So that it has like this density, there's something with it that then makes it seem as though, even though someone will say press male, as opposed to female, and then there being a density within the pants, but even pressing male, and this has happened to me, that some scanners are just more sensitive than others, and so then so there is that issue of whether the whole procedures are being checked by TSA, depending on how that prosthetic has been made and what its materials are. There's also that the peacock actually is made in Singapore, and so for one thing, it could take a while to from ordering online. Of course, someone has to not only have, say, the $200 to buy one, but they also have to have the access to the internet in order to purchase it online, but also knowing the spaces to even know where to find out how to get, or that something like this even exists. Is so a question of access in that sense, but with it being made, that particular one being made like in Singapore. So Singapore is actually one of the countries when it comes to imports, but and there are other countries that, depending on how something like a penile prosthetic is viewed by a country, it may, especially when if it says, okay, well, it's for, this one's called, for pee, pack, and play, right? Play being for sex. And so would it then be constituted as a sexual toy? And some countries actually do prohibit the importation of quote-unquote sex toys. So could that be an issue, and does it depend on what customs official is checking packages that day as to whether or not they determine that that device, that prosthetic, as something that should be prohibited from entering. So there's that as well. There is no, when you order it online, there is no, as soon as these things are ordered with a lot of these companies, whether it's Peacock or others, there is no, even if it hasn't come to you, there's no money back guarantee. So some companies, they custom make them, per your order online, and so then as soon as you've paid, that's it. There is no, because they've gone through the cost of, they're going through the cost of production. Some, because they custom produce them, sometimes, and there's very few of these companies that make these devices, that it can take 3 or 4 months with some of these companies to create and ship, and for you to, for someone to receive it. So what are they to do in those 3 to 4 months while they're waiting? So that can be an issue as well. So there's it's a lot harder to pee when you're transgender. So when people say, just, what's the big deal, just go pee, it's a big deal in a lot of ways.